we form a false self early on to respond and to negotiate the pressures on us in our formative years. And we each make our own choices. So you and your siblings or other kids that around you with the same environment will actually form different selves. So we're making choices, and you see it very much in a family. Different siblings have got totally different character because they've made different choices, so they've developed a different self. But those choices become the foundations of the false self, because you assume certain things. When you're young, you don't have much information, so you make assumptions about what's happening. You see, your sister gets a blue trike and you get a red trike, and you wish you had a blue trike, and you think she's a favorite, and you're not favored. Or somebody, your friends have scale electrics and you don't have one, so you think you're not loved and they are loved. Or, we make assumptions that often aren't true, which is why I call them assumptions, but they very quickly become beliefs. They establish themselves as beliefs, and then we build our life structure on those beliefs. And often in later years, we can be quite horrified when we realize the assumptions are actually meaningless. Most of them are actually meaningless. They have almost no truth about them. And yet we've assumed and built on them, and built a self on them, as if they're true. That's why I say most of who we are now internally is really the false self. It's the self that we've developed in response to the world that we're part of, the pressures that we need to be in, how we've coped and managed the reality that we're involved in.
That's the mask.
And it's a total mask. It's a total mask. I mean, if the same person, if you or I had been born in a different family, the same self, the same genetic material, we would be a different self, depending on the ethos of that family, or the ethics, or the way of being of that family. And so we are very much formed by our external, and we form the internal to balance it. And that's what sort of gives us a sort of a feeling of control, a feeling of response to what's happening on the outside. So the inner self is the private self that we don't see, that people don't see, but we have developed to manage the external self. And so, we might be a people pleaser. We might feel that, life's scary, or our parents or dad maybe, or mom is threatening. And so to keep them happy, you have to do what they want. And so you please them. And then you find out that pleasing people actually works very well. So you become a professional people pleaser. But that's not who you are. It's just a way you've learned to keep the wheels oiled and to keep people liking you. You might be a rebel, a little rebel, and say, if you say yes, I'll say no. If you say no, I'll say yes. And that's another way of sort of defining yourself. But it's still in response to the outer environment. We might find that we have to be very clever. Girls are pushed to being attractive. How do I look? Am I good enough? Boys are pushed to being clever or sporty or strong, and they pretend to be strong because now this is and they shouldn't cry or wouldn't cry in public particularly. And so that's the false self that is developed in response to what's expected.